You're a legend.
What the hell is you?
The New Year's resolution is to get past this part. I know.
Welcome to Zero Fucks Given. I'm Krista DeLuca. Joined with me today is Carson Block and Freddy Brick. How are you guys?
Doing well despite being joined with you. How was your holiday?
It was good. I ate myself into oblivion. Is that a thing? I can't even. That doesn't even make. Okay.
Well, you can eat your way out of Houston, since you've talked about how the women in Houston are so thin, and this is something that just never actually resonated as accurate or true, given that Houston is generally on.
Let's talk about this. I feel like you haven't gotten enough sleep today.
He got his 5 hours.
No, you did less than that.
You know what? Because I ate a fucking big dinner last night.
That's what happened to me, and I felt like fucking.
Yeah.
You know what?
No, but that's why I woke up at 4.
Dude, you know the real reason he's waking up at 4?
Why?
So I'm reading the Daily Mail, and there's pictures of like Mark Wahlberg shirtless, like looking ripped as usual. Mm-hmm. And there's this whole thing that this guy wakes up at 4. So I think Carson's realized, like, hey, I'm getting all these compliments about, like, looking good.
God.
If I want to take this shit to the next level, I got to start waking up at 4 a.m. So I think that's the real reason he's waking up at 4.
So
yeah.
There's something to that if you want to be next level at whatever. I listened to this audiobook by a guy named David Goggins. It was published a few years ago. So a friend of mine came in town in October and said, it's fucking great, this amazing audiobook. And the audiobook's better because in between chapters with ghostwriters reading it, they do a podcast discussing each chapter. So the book is called Can't Hurt Me. And this guy, incredible life story. The first 2 to 3 chapters are really hard. Like he came from Buffalo, New York. His father beat the shit out of him, his mother, his older brother. Just brutal. And so he and his mother left when he was 8, and he had learning disabilities as a result. Anyway, went into the Air Force, washed out. So 24 years old, he weighed 300 pounds, and he's working as a nighttime exterminator for Ecolab, cleaning out restaurants. And so it's like, his breaking point was this one night he went to clean this one restaurant out. I mean, the rat traps were full, and he goes into the kitchen and he hears some shit behind the walls, and he thinks the rats are there, and he moves the ceiling tile and just gets covered in fucking cockroaches. Oh. And so he's like, fuck this, goes home, eats his dawn breakfast, where he stuffs himself, bunch of donuts and shit like that. And then he's leaving to go see his mother. And
wait, are we still talking about the book, or are we talking about Houston?
So far, I mean, this is what I picture as like the Houston lifestyle. But Krista insists that it's like the women who are like the women. They're not even this. They're like Kate Moss apparently there. But so anyway, as he's on his way out the door, he starts watching this documentary about Navy SEALs. And he's like, shit, man, these are the hardest motherfuckers out there. Yep. Like, this is what I want to do. So he's almost too old to join the Navy as an enlistee because he's 24. And he has basically 3 months to make it. But he also has to lose 100 pounds within 3 months. And he does it. Like, all this stuff's been fact-checked. And he has to do...
What's the name of the book again?
Can't Hurt Me. And it's incredible. So it's this whole thing is as he goes through... I actually just gave it to my wife for Christmas, the written version. So it's like one of these books. It's actually very profound. And if you listen to it while working out, it's one of these things where you're like not going to stop because you feel like such a fucking pussy when you hear about him, like, running marathons on broken feet, ultra marathons on broken feet.
As you were working out?
Well, I did for a while, but then it ended. So he just released another one that I just started listening to yesterday. But anyway, one of the points that he makes, actually, I just
Can't Hurt Me Again?
It's called buy my second book.
Really can't hurt me. Yeah, I know, seriously.
It's like I left a few bits out in the first one.
But anyway, this time he's famous now. So he's got like an intro by,
I need to
The
read
Rock
this.
and Joe Rogan also. So this dude's like blown up in fame. And but anyway, he makes this point about getting up at 4 a.m. and just how it's this time when you can be super productive. So, and when I used to wake up at that time, I found that to be true. But today was accidental.
Does the same hold true for if you haven't gone to sleep yet? Is that like the same?
Have you not gone to sleep?
No, I have gone to sleep. I mean,
you do look a
think
little tired.
Oh, shut the fuck up. Seriously though, like, do you think it's the same thing? Like, if you were like that hardcore at raving, and you were like, "Yeah, man, I'm just like not gonna stop the party."
Dude, I lapped myself, man. I'm hard.
Take this, Goggin. I haven't been asleep yet, bitch.
Just lapping the clock.
Yeah, I don't feel like that's the same productivity. And
Not the same level
What does
of
he say
productivity.
about going to bed at 8 o'clock, pussy? Is he's like,
I'm sure he goes to bed early. How old
I bet
is
he
this
goes
guy?
to bed early.
Well,
I have
he's
questions.
actually I think he's just about the exact same age I am. So
Okay.
he retired from.
So he's an old
He
fuck.
retired from the Navy just a few
45.
years ago. Yeah, like ish.
Okay.
So
To put this all into context,
you're
though,
older than I am.
I'm a really
You got a
old
fucking
fuck.
5 handle on that shit.
But to put this all
and
into
looking
context,
fucking great.
How
It's
are you
all-
going to relate to our demographics? We learned that our key demographic is 25 to 34.
I got to tell you,
But there is the
major
60.
attrition.
But there is the 60 to 150 year old demographic too.
Right, I
When
know,
we
and
get
they
that- we get
reach
this
out to
report.
me. I am an inspiration.
We get this report to clarify for people. We get this report on how well the channel's doing, and look, if any would-be acquirers are out there, it's really hot, this media platform.
This is our moneymaker
And
right
it
here.
buckets all of them, including the 60 to 150 bracket, which I always wonder why they got to stretch all the way there, right? I mean, is modern medicine that fucking good that the 120-year-old who's listening to us is like, you need to keep pumping me full of whatever it is because I need to keep listening to Zer0es. That's what I'm hoping is pushing them on.
I think the intros make them feel a little less bad about their dementia.
Yeah, it's
But back to Navy SEALs. I remember you were once on a weekend away trip.
Okay, don't ever. I thought you were going to say, I remember you were once going to do something Navy SEAls. I'm like, no, I wasn't. Never, ever said that in my life.
We did have an intern who
Who
claimed
went to
he
Navy
was
SEALs summer camp.
Yeah, Navy
sleepaway
SEAL.
camp.
Yeah. and
3,000
after-
push-ups a day that he could never replicate in real life.
Well, the best was after he described the several hours of concurrent exercise. We were like, I think that's about 34 hours he's described in a single day. So he's not good at math or lying. But I remember you did say you were sat with a bunch of dudes once as a Navy SEAL. Was describing some of the activities they've been getting up to.
No. So I'll tell you about this. Yeah. I wasn't there. This was secondhand information, but it was well-known guy in finance, had an annual thing, and there was a Navy SEAL there. The guy who wrote the book No Easy Day, pseudonym Mark Owen. Mm-hmm. So he's the guy who took credit for killing bin Laden. And so apparently Mark Owen, I think his real name is Matt Bissonnette. So Bissonnette was saying that, and he's on SEAL Team 6, so they get the most intense shit. The really tough thing about being a SEAL is that you never know when you're going to get called, right? So you're at home, you're socializing, you get a text, your phone rings, you're told, hey, be at the base in 4 hours, ready to deploy. And you leave your family and you don't know, where am I going? When am I coming back? Am I coming back? And he's just saying that that's mentally the hardest part. And this one guy who was there listening, finance dude, goes, yeah, that's a lot like trading.
no.
This is such a douche-filled fucking industry. I mean, there are so many
there's no
fucking
question
douches
there.
in this industry.
Oh, so many.
No, like we're not even close.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Like,
if you
we're
were
not
that
even close.
douchey, I would never
We're
work
thinking
with
that a lot of the time that like
I
this
got to
is
get a
lot
better
like,
jet card to be a bigger douche. Like it's embarrassing.
you. You don't even have that jet card anymore, do you? But you have some nice cufflinks.
Oh, dude, that was the best ever. That was like peak VC. So Carson signs up for the Uber jet card, basically. What was it called, that thing?
Man.
Something.
I can't remember
remember
what the fuck
Wheels off or something.
It was so well, let's distinguish. That's not a jet car.
No.
No.
So like I have a jet car, but it's like
Okay.
This was great. This was
but
like
this is supposed to
if
be.
there's room in the baggage area, you can go in, card.
No. Okay, you're getting it confused with something else. No, what this was, they operated private jet flight, or they operated a private jet, like a G4, coast to coast. And so they said, yeah, we'll schedule these flights kind of based on demand. And we also have them regularly scheduled. And if there's seats available, then you can hop on. You pay, one fee up front per year. I don't know, it's like $25,000 or something like that. And you get to fly in this private jet. And so like, okay, that might be cool. I'll try it. So I sign up. And turns out the schedule sucks. Like there's never.
Yeah, that's right.
It's never when I want to travel. And then it's like got on there, and I had never flown like a G4 or whatever, and they actually don't have TV screens, so you have to bring your own. You have to bring your own entertainment, and then. It's awkward because they'll assign you which seat you get, but some people get assigned the couch, and there's no table there, and you're kind of like,
really?
and you're like sitting sideways the whole flight with no table if you're on that, and it's just
sliding into the person next to you.
and it
This is awkward.
It occurred to me it's basically just for millennials to take selfies on and post to social media. Like that's the value you would get out of this. It's like, dude, I'm flying private. Like, these are my friends. Like, who the fuck are you, dude? Like, why am I in your picture?
Well, my favorite bit was when the thing arrived. You get this. Was it like a gold card? Like a
it wasn't made out of real gold,
right.
But it was like this metal card. I mean,
like as if you're gonna, which had no purpose.
But that's what tells you this thing was so pretend.
Plastic.
That's what tells you this thing was so pretend. Like this card that's supposed to look fancy, and you're like, what am I?
Cufflinks.
Yeah, the cufflinks, like little airplane. Like, what the fuck do I? It's like once I got those, I knew I'd fucked up. Like honestly, I'm like. All right, this was a stupid fucking use of $25,000. So I basically got one way. It's the most expensive one-way trip I've ever taken in my life.
You couldn't book the return either. You had to get there and then book a one-way on JetBlue back, right?
Well, I did because they just didn't fly at the time I wanted to fly.
You need to get up at 3:30 in the morning to get this 5 o'clock flight. But remember to wear those cufflinks so they know.
So funny. Yeah. What about, I assume they went bust or spacked, one of the two. Same thing, basically.
They would have made some people pretty wealthy if they had spacked before going bust.
True.
So, I don't know. But yeah, it might be called something like Wheels Up, or maybe that was one of the other ones.
Not Wheels Up.
Wheels Off.
Anyway.
So it's cool. Like we actually had an agenda to discuss and we're nowhere near it.
Yeah,
that's always a good sign.
Our first item is favorite news of 2022, or from 2022, excuse me.
It could be of 2022 as well. It's not like being joined with, as in conjoined. It's okay to use that preposition.
It's unfair because there's such a clear winner here.
Okay.
What's the clear winner? The grandmother?
The grandmother.
I don't think you agree.
Well, I was actually going to take kind of a serious approach.
I know, you're way too
I'm taking a serious approach. I mean, I think that was, I got to tell you, like, when I read that story,
you were crying.
I was crying, laughing.
I know. It was really, that's why I was like, hands down, this is.
But if we change the criterion.
Okay.
Which news story of 2022 caused you to experience the most Schadenfreude?
I haven't had enough coffee for that.
Really? Like that's you need coffee to answer that fucking question?
Well, of the items that we've discussed on the podcast.
Or things that we haven't discussed.
Okay.
Like what caused you to experience the most because let's be honest, when you're in this business, you're a little bit in the business, but when you're in this business, emotionally you're in it for the Schadenfreude. It doesn't get bad. There's not an emotion that provides a more positive, like a serotonin boost.
I mean, for me, like one of the great things about the crypto blow up, which like immense amounts of Schadenfreude, there's a particular allocator who has like met with us a couple times, has zero interest. was long a lot of Chinese garbage, and I did find out that they had a dedicated crypto fund. You know who I'm talking about. So, like, knowing that they were on the other side of pretty much every blow up that's happened over the last at least 5 years,
It warmed your heart.
was Schadenfreude inducing. That was actually the part of the crypto thing that I kind of enjoyed, like knowing some of the people on the other side.
All right. So I'm going to go for a triple play because I'm
Okay.
going to talk about
He was
past,
really
present,
prepared on this.
future.
Okay, wow.
So
you
this
really-
will tie in.
We know who was preparing at
this-
4 a.m.
Oh, yeah.
This will tie in
This guy.
predictions
Okay.
with, yeah, I guess I woke up at 4 a.m. because I was just nervous that didn't have shit to talk about. I'm
No,
kidding.
you were
That wasn't-
nervous that
That wasn't it. Okay,
I'd
so
steal your thunder.
steal my thunder every episode, man. I mean, I used to do
And
that
I don't
intro.
get prepared. What? Oh, shut
You're kidding. You don't get prepared?
Come on, I came
How
in here.
shocking
I wrote
is that?
Stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so my favorite news story, which we did talk about, and it actually happened on my birthday this past year, so it's even better, was the indictment of Bill Huang.
Okay.
Okay, so for manipulating stocks, especially GSX, that fucking piece of shit, like push that motherfucker up on us hard. But the breaking, so there's breaking news with this. I talked to somebody earlier this year after the indictment, but like pretty good source. And he told me, I went out, he's based in New York, said I went out for drinks with some people, and a salesperson from one of the banks that had done business with Bill Huang showed up. And the salesperson is in equity derivatives. And the guy's telling me, he's like, yeah. So I immediately say, oh, hey, Bill Huang. And the guy goes, yeah. I get asked about that all the time. He's actually one of my clients. It's like, whoa. And this is a youngish salesperson.
Do you know this story?
I think it is, but youngish salesperson doesn't realize the import of what he's about to say. I mean, he goes, we're not actually that stupid that we just gave this dude leverage for that kind of leverage for no reason. We noticed that when he would trade, shortly thereafter, accounts linked with China sovereign wealth money would trade the same names in the same direction. So it's like you're guaranteed not to lose, maybe, or almost guaranteed. And see, that's some shit that hasn't been broken yet. And I've been trying to feed that story to investigative reporters. Like I have the name of the potential source. I don't know that this person would talk, but if anybody listening to this has more information on this, please contact me because I would love to get this story out there. It's a it's a huge, huge potential story. But I was also thinking, I was kind of wondering about the magnitude, like what kind of a backstop does that provide if you're trading in front of China sovereign money? And look, I'd heard years ago, I didn't need to hear this, but I talked to somebody back in 2011, was like, oh yeah, the guys who control the state administration of foreign exchange, FX, like those dudes are day trading, US stocks all night, during their shifts. So definitely there are back, and clearly could be back enders there. But thinking about this, there was a story that actually just happened this month. So December 14th or 15th, DOJ indicted two dudes. One of them is head equity trader at a large asset manager, TIAA. It's a subsidiary of Nuveen. And this other guy who's retired, who used to be head equity trader at Sutro and Company, which was a San Fran-based brokerage. So what was going on, what is alleged, is that these guys made at least $47 million in profit in 6 years trading with this guy in Oregon. His last name is Williams, Alan Williams. So Williams would place these trade orders right before Nuveen or TIAA went into the market and placed similar orders, or like short ahead of their long sales, buy ahead of their long buys. And I was wondering, like, how much could you really make from that. Again, the SEC alleges at least 47 million in profit from doing this in just 6 fucking years. Now, bringing that back to the Bill Huang thing, if that's accurate information, so look, I mean, it's alleged at this point, and they're, I've not been able to confirm it, but in any event, like, there's real money that can be made, but I suspect that there's more complicity than this. I read both the DOJ indictment and the SEC complaint, and it neither alleges that the traders on the TIA side traded aggressively in order to move the price of the stock. But now I'm thinking back, and I was pointed to the story by a friend of mine who he used to be a sales trader during the .com days and thereafter. And we were sharing a little bit of sell-side perspective, because back then I was working with my father, and he was in institutional sales. And I mean, I remember one of the largest asset managers on earth, like a household name asset manager, when they would buy stocks that he had recommendations, like buy recommendations on, they would buy the fuck out of it. And my father and I used to sit there and marvel at how bad they were at trading. Just this is actually a firm that is so large, it has dedicated traders who are separate from the PMs. Most of my father's clients, the PM is doing the trading. And so you could see a guy like that who has to bifurcate his duties, being kind of lazy and just, being aggressive in buying or selling. But when you have dedicated traders, like, what the fuck is their job other than to make sure you get the best pricing or the firm gets the best pricing? But they would buy the shit out of these things sometimes. So I'm telling that to my buddy who said, yeah, man, I used to see that too from some big clients. And he was at a small broker, and he told me, like, when this one story happened, he's like, look, it wasn't Goldman Sachs, it wasn't Morgan Stanley. And I got one dude with a big asset manager coming into me one day saying, I want to buy 42 million shares of Sun Microsystems. Like, you would never, ever, ever, ever share that kind of size with a trader. So obviously he brought it to him, wanting the guy to tell everybody, and like front run it and push the stock. So I'm thinking that this scam of buy-side guys who are trading for huge asset managers, and they've got somebody on the outside who's like the rat hole, and they're front running these orders. And the second leg that, like I said, that the DOJ and SEC complaint and indictment don't get into, but I bet there's deliberate aggressive behavior by these traders to really move the stock prices because they have economics with somebody on the outside. I bet this goes back decades.
Yeah.
I bet it's wide fucking spread.
Yeah.
And so prediction for 2023, I bet we see more of these prosecutions go down.
Happen. Huh.
So I'm tying, with all this, I tie together past, Bill Huang, present, this shit that just went down, and a prediction for 2023 that this is going to be a big area. And the SEC supposedly detected it through, at least per their press release, their data analytics. So I don't know. I mean, they've been bragging about that. They were at the Berkeley conference, kind of bragging about it. And assuming that that's not embellishment, that might be a really powerful tool to start ferreting this shit out. And I bet a lot more shoes will drop in 2023 on that front.
I mean, it doesn't shock me that a practice that illegal or aggressive be going on, because I mean, it's quite well known that what a lot of buy-side traders at these large houses, I mean, they weren't paid a fortune,
right?
Typically, but it was, and there's like numerous books where this is detailed. It's quite well known. They'd be like, all right, I'm going to go to Switzerland for the weekend, take the wife away, blah, blah, blah. And then on Monday morning, they just call the bank up and be like, look, I ran up like 15 grand tab this weekend. Like, you're going to pick it up. Here's 3 million shares of XYZ to buy. I got you worked out over the next few weeks, however the fuck you see fit. So in a culture where it's kind of, everyone knows it's somewhat permissible to behave like this and effectively direct flows to whoever's gonna cut you the best deal personally, not a great leap to say just a little step further here. I mean, I'm giving the same schmucky order to whoever it is, may as well have my buddy front run it. I mean, geez, I'm not getting paid the same as everyone else around here. So you can see how that seeps in. Wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, but this guy wasn't living low key. The guy at TIA, his house his primary residence in Idaho, Zillow's got it valued at $6 million. And in the indictment, they're seeking forfeiture of these various real estate holdings. I mean, he's got residential real estate worth, probably, 12 to 15 million in total, it seems. So,
Jeez.
Guy wasn't being like terribly low key about things here. But yeah, it's interesting. It's also one of these other manifestations of, so I also had recently, because it's the holidays, I caught up with a guy who's a son of a person who used to be the principal at where my father last worked when he worked at an investment bank. And it was a small investment bank, M.H. Meyerson and Company. They were, by number of stocks they made markets in, they were like the second largest market maker on NASDAQ in the 90s.
They did the Stratton Oakmont IPO.
They did the Stratton Oakmont IPO.
We, to be clear, if anyone has a copy of that prospectus, we are on the lookout for that prospectus. I think that'd be a nice collector's item.
Yes, I heard that somehow or another those were never available within Meyerson at the time of the IPO. But in any event, it's, Meyerson did not operate on the level of Stratton Oakmont. I spent a few summers there. I don't think it was that level. It was a lot of fun, though.
How many guys had vowels? Is the last letter.
This is the way these trading rooms used to be.
So
it was cool.
Were you interning for them?
Well, my father was head of the institutional. My father was the institutional department. Both equity research and institutional sales. But the trading rooms
global head.
Yeah, the trading rooms were so fun back then, like in the 90s and earlier, right? It's like all these people just had high school diplomas. They were Italian, Irish, and Jews. And they would just scream at each other all day. And it was actually a really fun environment to be around. And so what ended up happening as NASDAQ basically, I think it was, I don't know if it's FINRA or the SEC, forced spreads and commissions to compress. These guys couldn't compete. The industry consolidated. And this relates to what I was just talking about, because on the surface, it's like, oh, okay, well, things are much more professional. Now we have this huge UBS trading room in Stamford, Connecticut, and everybody works there has an MBA from a top school. It's none of these, like Irish guys like losing their shit, and, who just had like GEDs or something. And, we have an HR department. So when somebody grabs ass, like, there's a little bit of a, paper trail here about that. Okay, great. You made it professional. You almost took down the whole global fucking financial system through this consolidation. And it might seem cleaner, but it wasn't. And so now when we look at this story here with large asset managers, well, what I think is a story, it's like, yeah, there's so many reasons why consolidation in the asset management industry is unhealthy for markets. And but at the SEC, they just keep piling on more, regulations and shit. One of my predictions for 2023 is that we're going to have to start doing quarterly attestations on like crypto, so like add 2 or 3 like boxes that we'll have to tick every fucking quarter on that for no reason. But all of that shit helps drive the consolidation. And so on the surface, the asset management business seems to be more professional and has this sheen. Like, we are like the M.H. Meyersons of the asset management business, all right? Like, that's kind of where we are. And we are definitely outliers in terms of appearance. And everybody wants to seem buttoned down and professional. But there's some real fucking filth, serious fucking filth beneath the surface. And as I said, I bet that what we see with that TIAA guy is pretty widespread among traders at mega asset managers.
So I want to pick up on something you said. I don't think anyone that's Swiss at a Swiss bank grabs us. I think maybe it's a pinch, like a little bit. Like, oh yeah, so secretary, I'm pinching us. Woo! Like that's totally how I can see it. I think within that and where my prediction for the future is going within the crypto blow up, I think finally the sheen is off venture capital, except for Tiger Global, who I'm sure is still just piling into that shit.
I knew you were going to have to mention them.
But no, seriously, I think they're
one of the great stories of 2022, right?
I think the sheen is really off venture capital. I think whereas previously it really was a cottage industry, it's actually by size massively ballooned over the last sort of 3 to 5 years, because those are the vintages where people have raised the largest funds. Guys who were previously raising $500, maybe $1 billion, just supersized the fuck out of it. Some, I think it was to compete because they realized the game had changed from SoftBank and Tiger writing much larger checks much faster with less supervision. And some, I think they were just fucking greedy and like, this seems stupid, but hey, if we raise a $3 billion fund and we're charging 2% on that, it's going to be several $100 million before anyone works out if this was the dumbest idea ever. So,
and those dudes have all moved on to different allocator chairs.
Exactly.
So who fucking cares? Like, it's a long tail.
Exactly.
Liability there.
So I think what'll be interesting if the SEC and DOJ really want to get into crypto and they realize that, the practices they see at FTX, whether it's owning a tiny bit of a shitcoin and marketing up, or rampantly promoting these things and then puking it on retail, like behavior that within listed equity markets would just be a slam dunk fucking pump and dump case. I think if they get under the hood of some of these VCs and they really have the appetite to do it, I think we're going to see some pretty significant security manipulation cases amongst the VC community. Now, whether they have the appetite to do that and to get into those places, I don't know. But I suspect if they do, and we start to see some subpoenas amongst, the most blue chip, well-heeled VC guys on the block, I think that could really change the landscape. And I see that as a boom in compliance box ticking software for 2023 and beyond. So if you are looking for a potential area of growth in VC, it's software for VCs to do box checking. I think that'll be a massive growth area, as they're all like clicking, like, did you manipulate any crypto this quarter? No, we did not.
You know what? I think it would be great to create a pure play company that just does box ticking software across all industries. So you could go to all of these different companies that own, that own software packages that do some of that, try to spin those out into one vehicle and like the box ticking industry. This industry is the growth industry for as far as the eye can see, basically. Especially, and it's counter-cyclical too, because the more things take a shit, the more call there is to regulators do something about it. So the more boxes that get created that have to be ticked. So I want to do this. I want to consolidate the box ticking industry.
I can go one better. So you've got all these shitty delivery companies that are losing a fortune delivering food to you because it's a structurally unprofitable business. We just add onto the existing infrastructure box ticking. They actually now will deliver a box to your office and you tick it. And then they're like, oh, and by the way, here's your food. So you can massively overcharge because it's now like a corporate compliance cost.
Especially because there's no, none of these boxes would be delivered just one by one. I mean,
right.
We're on a quarterly basis. I feel like we get about 25 boxes we have to tick, right, per person, more or less. And so, if we expand that to crypto, it'll go to 30 boxes. You can make these big boxes, big trucks, electric trucks to make it green.
ESG element to this as well. You take all the boxes from Christmas and the presents you just unwrapped and opened, you just recycle the boxes straight into box ticking. Speaking of which, I was over at some friends last night and they had a phenomenal idea for how to make children be more compliant. Now, you have kids.
Compliant as in ticking boxes,
just generally,
or listening to parents.
So listening to parents. So they were sitting, and I was like, wow, guys, they had one present left around the tree, and I was like, oh, who's that for? Someone who didn't show up. They're like, no, that's that was just an empty box that we just kind of wrapped because we had a bit of space, whatever. I'm like, oh, okay. And they're like, I've had a really good idea. What if every year you have one present under the tree and you wrap it in, say, blue, and you know that the blue wrapped present is an empty box. And when your kids are misbehaving, you're like, right, that's it. I'm throwing your presents in the fire. and you just take the one that you know is an empty box and you throw it in the fire and you do it one fucking time just to show them that like you are prepared to go. And they're like, no! Like they're absolutely devastated. They think you took a real present and threw it in the fire.
Huh.
I think that's dope parenting.
That's pretty good. I thought you were going to, you say, okay, here's this present from Santa, and they open it up and it's empty. And then you're supposed to say, well, at least it wasn't coal. Now think about throwing a coal-laden box into the fire and like it explodes. That would be great.
An empty box, dude.
I don't understand. Why do they have an empty box under the tree? Because there was just.
I mean, just to like
aesthetic. Like,
aesthetic.
Reasons.
Yeah, unclear why it was just the one empty box. Like they were like, this would be perfectly except for one empty box, but. I think it's a great fucking idea. I mean, I think you have a lot of scarred children. There was a lot of debate as to what age would be best because would they remember it at 5? Maybe not. 7, they've definitely got well-formed memories.
I feel like they would remember it at 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
We thought peak Christmas for kids was probably about like 6 to 7 before they're starting to get a little skeptical and realize that.
You know what's funny? It's like, no matter how many Santa boxes they unwrap or Santa presents they unwrap and they see Amazon boxes, it doesn't click. Or maybe it's just like growing up as a kid this age. Like it's a world so dominated by Amazon that,
Yeah.
Of course Santa's, elves just like wrap Amazon packages and it's probably who drove the fucking truck here,
Yeah. So anyway.
But okay, so... Well, speaking of great ideas, though, I mean, where I wanted to go, but that's a great story, but where I wanted to pick up from the box ticking business is business that we conceived of during our holiday party. That is, I think it'd be great business, software business. It's an app.
Did we discuss this at our holiday party?
Spotter,
we did.
Krista.
It's called, the app is going to be called Spotter.
Spotter. That's why I was like, what? Oh, I don't remember. I don't think I was... What?
Well, you were there. You were participating in conversation.
Yeah.
You
were just fucked.
Just another self-imposed memory wipe. You would have had a better time if you remembered this.
Yeah.
Okay. So this came about because it's rumored that Gordon Ramsay didn't really try to kill himself, that it was autoerotic asphyxiation.
No, not Gordon Ramsay.
What?
Anthony Bourdain.
I was like, what?
Oh, whatever. I don't know, man. I don't watch any of those shows.
Like Gordon Ramsay tried to kill himself?
Okay. Well, he's into autoerotic asphyxiation too.
Just more successful.
That makes sense.
Well, hasn't yet failed. You're successful till you're not.
What's his name?
Anthony Bourdain.
Okay.
Right. That it was actually like the rumor is that he jerked himself to death, and so that of course brought up Michael Hutchins of InXS, who apparently that's why he died was
Lord Screaming Such.
I mean, like
head of the monster raving loony party in the UK.
Yeah, it's I have no idea what that means, but I'm just picturing the sadness of this, dying alone in a hotel room. Yeah. You haven't come yet, so I guess you can't get yourself down and you're hanging, and maybe that last millisecond there's like a realization that
this was a bad idea.
Nobody should have to asphyxiate themselves for an orgasm alone. Okay, I'm sure there would be a community of people out there who are into this,
right,
if they could actually bring themselves to admit that they're into this. So, Spotter, you want to do this, but you need somebody to help. You need a spotter. You need somebody. You need somebody who's going to revive you.
This?
I think it was like a combination because, like we were talking about how, like you're in the gym.
It was like a hive mind thing, like we were all going, and you were part of this conversation too,
right? Because it's like
I think so.
Yeah, you are.
Did I add
the problem is it's like you're in the gym,
add anything?
right?
Yeah.
And you're benching, and you want to like max out, but like you don't have a spotter. It's dangerous. Okay. This is the same thing. You want to max it out.
This is really dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, right. And you don't want to have to reset, like, because you're a little conservative. The whole thing is like supposed to, reminds me of that movie Flatliners from the 80s when they wanted to see what it was like when they died. Like how long could you have your heart stop before it was med students. It was probably really a proxy for autoerotic asphyxiation.
Right.
But anyway, that I think that shit hot, man. 2023 spotter.
Well, so the idea is, I guess a bunch of questions because it has some similar social elements to Puba, which was an earlier, still unfunded Chase Coleman, if you're listening. Brilliant idea we had in the,
all we had to do was send a business plan. Like they were just like shooting money out of a cannon at every business plan. I gotta tell you,
about a year ago, I don't even think you had to send a business plan. I just think you had to send a body along that was like in its 20s and be like, I would like money. But I love the idea of...
Chase Coleman could identify with like not wanting to take a shit in a public restroom.
100%.
Like this guy would, I get it.
Yeah, that guy would keep his shit tight, no doubt. But yeah, I love the idea of like, turn up, my spotter's arrived and, you're ready with your trousers off and you're just going through like, do I want a clementine or a mandarin today? What am I, an orange? That's good. That's good. Yeah, I like that. Let's go for it. You've got your ligature all picked out, like nicely kind of open the closet and you've got like a bunch of women's stockings hanging up, just working out what you're going to use. So, I like the idea. Maybe the spotter turns up with some oranges. If you're out, you're like, oh yeah, bro, if you could pick me up some oranges on the way, that'd be awesome.
It would be great. Like if you're traveling and so they can show up with like a little step ladder, or
true.
Yeah, they should definitely show up with a step ladder.
And it makes it more ESG compliant, right? Because it's safety, really.
Checking that box.
Yeah. Huh. I mean, if maybe if we really marketed this to the BIPOC community, it would also be if we tick that box as well.
True. I bet SBF would have funded this shit if we'd have got to him in time. I don't know if you saw the FT did a really good piece on the 50 or so investments that they made. Oh my God, it was like such a load of dog shit. Obviously Tiger Global and they're in like every round co-investing.
But there would have had to have been a coin, right? So you'd have to call it like the spot coin or something.
Nah, that's fine. We'd have got out before it collapsed. It would have been awesome.
Oh, that's what everybody in that business thinks.
That's
get
true.
Out before.
No, that's a lot of believers in that business.
Sorry,
that's
I meant in the autoerotic
asphyxiation.
Get out before this collapse.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't know. I think that kind of caps the year, right?
Yeah,
Is anything else worth discussing this year?
I don't know. Those last two items were yours, I think. Or no, were yours.
Yeah. Oh, well, a great story from 2022 that we didn't touch on, but apparently Putin fell down some stairs a few weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's, some might say he's quite ill, but others might say that somebody else was at fault. And
badly designed staircase.
Right, badly designed staircase. So apparently when Putin fell, due to somebody else's negligence, he shit himself.
So I gotta tell you,
it was probably a bad day for Ukraine when that happened. That probably guaranteed some more missile strikes.
Bombing. Yeah,
totally. That fucking guy.
I gotta say, I'm not sure this time next year he's still in power, and I assume that means he's no longer with us because it seems like whatever ailments he has are going downhill quite fast, and if that's really fucking with his head, which it seems to be quite clearly, including all the paranoia, I don't think the chef they call that guy who like Putin's chef, the guy who
the Kremlin caterer who runs the Wagner group.
Yeah, I don't think that guy's like waiting around while Putin fucks things up worse, and like whoever's sitting underneath Putin's a pretty bad dude. So I got to assume like he's gonna get pushed. I think before the year's out. That's my.
Do you think Putin? So that with that paranoia you touched on, he's got that like 50-yard long conference table, so nobody can come sit near him. Do you think he starts avoiding all staircases now?
Oh, absolutely.
He turns his dasher into a bungalow. So I got to tell you, I think the logical off-ramp for him, if you look at someone else who's been pushed out of like a very prestigious role recently, Prince Harry. I think Putin's doing a Netflix special, sat in Montecito, just being like, yes, they really didn't care for my mental health. All that torture and stealing and having to be despotic for years, it was really playing with my mental health. So I feel like, and I really couldn't talk to anyone. I mean, my father, I had him killed. My mother, I had her killed. My ex-wife, I had her. Everyone around me I had to have killed. My therapist, I had killed. So I was really isolated, and things were very, very tough for me. I can totally see him like sitting in Montecito, Oprah being like, was there a time where you thought of reconciliation? No, I had them all killed. What are you talking about? Like, yeah. So I think
the last one to go, his true confidant, was his carpenter.
And his suit maker. So yeah, that's where I see it cruising into for him. A Netflix special with Oprah in Montecito.
That would be awesome.
That'd be
That'd be
a really good get. If she could get that interview, I think that would take her to the next level.
Oh, Oprah will get it.
Yeah,
for sure.
So that's the final prediction for 2023. Putin phase out with the Oprah interview.
Oh, and I did make a second half of the year inflation prediction.
You did?
About halfway through the year. Yeah. I talked about what we had modeled second half of the year inflation to be.
When?
When Hugh Hendry was on, we thought we had
No. It was
was
before that. It
before?
might have been when Soren was on. Because I remember asking him what they had modeled for inflation in Japan and being very disappointed that they hadn't built such a model. But yeah, so anyway, I guess once those numbers come out for December, we can revisit it and see if my pulling shit out of my ass to be funny or try to be funny anyway at that moment actually was kind of close to the mark.
Okay. So there you have it, guys. That's all you need to know for 2023.
That's it.
Christy, you want to take us out?
No, I hate when you say that. I don't want to. That's all you. I do the intro.
He doesn't
which
mean
is
like
so,
Putin, just
No.
means more like,
Take us out in the
No,
style
I
of
don't-
Vladimir Putin.
I don't.
like when you're driving
I
your
could
car with like
barely
the dog in the
do
back
the
seat.
intro, so I definitely can't end
Come on,
us
take
well.
us out in the style of Vladimir Putin.
I don't know.
How about
No.
thank you to everybody.
Yeah.
Best
Thank you.
wishes for the. Well,
yeah.
wait till I'm done. You can. I think you'll be able to remember.
Because we'll cut this
I
bit,
will
won't we?
Best wishes for the new year.
Yeah.
Best wishes for the new year.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you so much for watching, all our millions of viewers. And when I say millions, I mean 17 viewers. Although I think our numbers are...
Based on your DMs, yeah.
We've got about
I'm just
17.
saying.
Got 17 viewers in the 60 to 150 year demographic, man.
All the guys they're like in their 70s, 80s that DM me. I'm like, thanks. Thank you.
I mean,
That is-
Hey,
you do have the
Not
5
too
handle. You do have the 5 handle. It is
just
what
saying.
it is.
I'm just saying. Anyway, thanks again, everybody, for watching. I'm your hostess, Krista DeLuca.
And let's fail and set sail into the new year.
Yep.
Like
Cheers.
Cheers.
cheers.